morning. Hey,
Oh, hello.
Kourosh and everybody, thank you so much. I'm so excited to have you on here. Our fabulous owner of Remax Executive, the number one. Are we still number one in North Carolina and South Carolina?
We are number one in North Carolina and South Carolina.
Because of you. And I'm appreciative to have you and appreciated that you're on here with us today. Talk about all the changes in the market and what you foresee happening in 2025.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I know how popular this spot is. And I love the title of your show, Mind Over Body. To me,
Market,
it's
on different market,
mind
but
over market. Um, it's, it talks about the mental discipline that we need, especially in markets that we're dealing with. So definitely a good title for the show. And like I said, I know how popular this show is. And, I've seen a lot of your shows and I know how engaging it is. So again, thank you for inviting me here today.
yeah, well, I'm excited. I apologize that I haven't had you before now, but I'm excited that you made time for me today. So thank you.
Sure.
So you ready to
So what
start
do you
off
want to talk about?
the market? What do you
Sure.
think? What's happening? What do you think is going to happen? What's happening currently? So I know we started seeing an increase in inventory
Sure.
and starting to see a little bit more days on the market, but still, at least in Wilmington, our days on the market are like 45 to 47. So it's still fast, relatively fast. And then what
It
do you
is.
project for the future, for 2025 future, short future?
2025. So I think that the market this year is going to be a balanced market, not a peak. Obviously, it's far from what we experienced in 2021, and I think you would agree with me. A lot of us really didn't enjoy that market.
What's horrible?
Just to put it in perspective, you mentioned days on the market are higher. Average days on the market nationwide, they're about 58 to 60 days. If you look back in 2016, that was the days of the market. That was the average days of the market we were dealing most markets in the country. And that kind of changed when COVID happened right after 2021. We saw that it kind of dipped to 43 days, 42 days. So in my opinion, now we're back to normal. It took us a while, but we're experiencing some normal markets. I think we're going to have probably kind of a slow first quarter. And then starting from the second quarter, third quarter, and by the end of the year, we're definitely going to see a different market. If you ask me as far as projections and number of transactions, I think we will look into about 500,000 to 600,000 more transactions by the end of the year, which is great growth. If we can get to the total transaction number of 5 million, including the new construction, I think everybody would be happy. Again, it would be a stable and sustainable market.
And you mentioned a balanced market. What does a balanced market mean?
The balanced market is where consumers have a choice, and us as real estate brokers and advisors, we actually are not under pressure to push them into the transaction. I mean, think about what we experienced in 2021. I think a lot of real estate brokers, they would agree with this comment that buyers that were forced into a transaction, there was no time.
Yeah.
And we dealt with a lot of buyer's remorse after the fact, and people that they paid a lot more than what the house worth at that time. So I think a balanced market is where we actually can do our job better. We can present several options. We're not going to make those decisions driven by fear of losing. We can actually take time, look at the best options, negotiate. One of the things that I think it was hurtful to experience in 2021 was the fact that people could not negotiate, ask for repairs, and ask for things that needed to be done. I think it's all coming back into that balanced market. In 60 days, average in the market is not bad at all. When you think about it, I've been in business for a while, long enough to tell you that we did experience average days in the market over 90 days between 2008 and 2011.
I'm going to tell you, when I went on a listing appointment in 2007, 8, 9, 10, I would, it was mandatory for me. I would do a 1-year listing agreement. Our average days on market was 6 to 9 months.
Right.
And that's insane. So now you're talking 45, 60 days. I mean, that's a You're right. That's nothing. And then you mentioned 2021, and I always think it's interesting. Try to tell agents or remind agents that in 2021, if you had a heartbeat, you could sell a house. The problem was you could not type fast enough because you would have 50 offers in 30 minutes. And it was unjust to the buyers because a lot of times buyers were having to do sight unseen offers just to have the opportunity to present an offer.
Right.
So it's like you said, it's a much we can breathe, and everybody, I always feel like a transaction where the buyer and seller both feel like they're winning is a great transaction. And I think we're back to there. That's kind of what you're saying, I think, right?
Absolutely. I think this is that normal market. Are we going to experience another peak probably in the next 2 years? We have a lot of people that are waiting, I guess, sitting on the sideline, waiting for the interest rates to come down. So at some point between now and the next 2-3 years, we're definitely going to experience that rush again for people that are coming in. But things have changed in our industry that I think we got to pay attention to some of the new trends. The reality is we have a lot of investors because real estate market has been strong for the past decade. We have a lot of new investors. They took some of that inventory away from the market. We also, looking at average, families or buyers, sellers, they stay in their home a lot longer than it used to be. When I got my license in 2006, I remember that time frame was anywhere between 6 to 7 years. And people will tell you, people stay in their home between 6 to 7 years and they move. Now that we're looking at 10 to 12 years, it seems like we don't have as many move up buyers in the market for that reason. People tend to stay, make improvements, enjoying that capital gain, enjoying that equity increase in the property. So I don't think it's realistic to say we're going to get back to 7 million transactions unless something changes and we have a lot more new construction inventory. But doing 5 to 6 million transactions is a healthy market for real estate.
Well, absolutely, and it's better than 2024, so that's good, right?
Absolutely.
And then, what are your thoughts on interest rates? You had mentioned interest rates. What are your thoughts on those?
I think interest rates are probably we're going to see them in low sixes by end of this year. It will be a gradual change in the interest rates. There's so many factors that involve and impacts the rates for long-term mortgage rates. The Fed had a couple of rate cuts and really didn't do much for the market. I think there's too much volatility when you think about and pay attention to the spread and why the market is so volatile. The bond market is not really performing as it should. I think it needs time. There's not to get into politics. I think we need to get things calmed down a little bit. And it seems like the new administration has a lot of that on the agenda to take care of. So once we have some more stability in the market overall, we're going to see that the rate is going to start coming down. But I think if you ask me as far as the forecast, I don't think we're going to see any rate reductions by Fed in January or February, probably towards the end of the first quarter, maybe March or April. That's when we're going to see some additional rate cuts. And hopefully by 2026, we'll have the rates under 6. That'll be my prediction.
Wow, that would be awesome. And then what are your thoughts on, you just said prices. So you think interest rates will slowly come down, leveling out in the 6s, low 6s by the end of the year? Inventory we're starting to see it and pick up in inventory. What are your thoughts on the housing prices?
The home values will continue to appreciate, especially, real estate, as we all know, it's super local, right? And so looking at North Carolina, South Carolina markets, we're still on the map. They're huge driving forces. We've got the job growth in this market. We have the opportunity for new construction and inventory. So we're going to continue having people moving to our region. And overall, looking at NAR forecast 2025, Dr. Yoon came out with a forecast about 3% price appreciation. I think it will be even stronger for the Carolina region, probably closer to 5% increase in property valuation. No risk factors out there, Jennifer. When you look at the data, there's nothing there that is alarming as far as foreclosures, any big risk factors for real estate and home values.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now everybody wants to know what's happening, and they want to know when the interest rates are dropping. Although I'm not getting that as much now as I was, but everybody kind of wants to know. I mean, we've had such a volatile market. I mean, it's it's COVID did crazy things to us.
It's a cyclical business. Real estate, just like many other industries, has its own cycles, and sometimes those cycles are extreme and more volatile than the others. You've been in this business long enough. You've seen at least a couple of different cycles. It has the peaks and it has the lows. And typically, when you buy real estate, at lows, you have the highest gain. And when you buy it at the peak, you may potentially experience that buyer remorse. That's what we experience right after 2021 and 22 markets. But I think when you think about real estate, we got to have the right perspective when you look at the numbers. We hear a lot of headlines. I mean, just looking at 2024, what we went through, a lot of changes, right? In a short amount of time, we had class action lawsuits, new forms, new agreements. Some of it, in my opinion, for better. There's more transparency in real estate transactions in general. But I think there was too much focus on all the negative press, and we did not do enough to celebrate the wins and looking at opportunities that we have now in 2025. I mean, I think for us in the industry, our focus was on NAR settlement, lawsuit, and probably didn't pay attention that several other industries, including insurance companies, paid billions of dollars in fines. We were not the only industry. And the consumers, the news on the legal development for them fades very quickly.
Yeah.
For us, we kept dwelling on that instead of focusing on the opportunity. To me, I mean, if you ask me some of the opportunities, the most important thing that we should celebrate is feel better about what we do for the consumers against all odds, with all this negative press, all the articles, everything that was discussed, the settlement, people are worried about what the local news is talking about, what the TV reporters are talking about. We still had a strong year. We had 90% of buyers and sellers still had a real estate agent in their transaction. We had the lowest number of for sale by owners in 2024, a record number low as far as number of transactions for sale by owner. What does that say? The consumers still see value in what we do.
That's right.
And so those are the wins that I think we need to focus on. The home equity for Americans reached the highest level, $35 trillion. Wow. So I think we should feel good about what we're doing. We're helping all the citizens, Americans, to make wealth. I mean, the home equity is, without a doubt, at least a third of American wealth. When you look at where families have their money, at least a third of it is in their home equity. And we are a big part of that. We are a big part of that decision. And I think those are the areas that we need to focus. When you listen to the media, I was paying attention to, the Instagram. There are some real estate coaches, and they post, headlines and some news statistics about real estate. But unfortunately, sometimes they have a negative spin on it. They were talking about the consumer debt has reached the highest level. Well, that's because the average loan size today is much bigger than what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You have to look at the debt to income ratio, which today is a lot less than what people and families or homeowners had 10 years ago. Or, you hear people talk about interest rates. Oh, my interest rate was 18%. Well, when your interest rate was 18% in 1981, the average price of a home was $70,000. So keeping the perspective is really important.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% true. And and the other, about the lawsuit, the one gain that I have found is that here in Wilmington, we have a huge influx of people moving in from out of state. And the one positive thing it did, it kind of uniformed how we do things as far as having that conversation about buyer agency upfront, having that conversation about compensation upfront, rather than we kind of did it backwards before. It seems to make a lot more sense now. But now when you come in from New York and you're coming to North Carolina, you already know it all, because everybody across the United States is kind of I mean, every state does things slightly different, but for the most part, from the big picture, they're doing things the same, which is, it makes it easier to explain.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question. The consumers that knew that real estate brokers are getting compensated for what they do. And I think we all had this mental barrier to discuss that compensation and how they're going to react. It wasn't the form. So we didn't feel comfortable probably to go and elaborate and say, let's talk about this a little bit more. So now I think we all have that confidence and it's great. Again, people see the value. We talked about the numbers and how many transactions had representation. Just like anything else, everything in life is negotiable. I mean, it depends on the quality of your service, your experience. You can negotiate for your services. But I truly believe that the changes that happened and took place in our industry actually gave opportunity for some of the best in the industry to get paid what they deserve as far as their services. And I hear that from a lot of the teams.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. So to wrap it up, do you have an end statement?
To wrap it up, I would say, again, going back to the title of your show, it's all about the mindset, right? The market may be unpredictable, but your mindset and discipline is something within your control. So I would say this to everyone, whether you're in real estate, you're in business, just keep that in mind. The success is always coming from people that are staying grounded and they're adaptable to change, because the only constant about life and business is change, right? So understand that I think it's important for us to build resilience for changes that are unpredictable. It's as important as having the systems. I talk about building habits. Talk about, I don't know if you like the book Atomic Habits. I mean, I love that book.
Yeah.
I just ordered a dozen copies of that book for our staff members, and I want to just give it to them for the new year and have them look at it. And the whole principle about it is about the power of tiny changes, right? Mm-hmm. And focus on the systems, not necessarily on the goals. Yeah. And build those great habits. But overall, I'm super excited for 2025. Again, I think this is that normal year that we were all hoping for. And I think it's going to be a stable year for real estate. There are not many industries I can think of that has the promise and the stability that real estate has. We've got close to 50 million people looking at millennials, Gen Zs, and the people that are getting into this market to become homeowners and potentially want to buy a house. We've got about 10 years of clients in the bank. Yeah. So talking about stability, the prices are going to stay strong. Real estate demand is going to continue. Again, we might have these cycles in the economy just like any other industry, but I'm very optimistic about our business.
Yay. Well, that is all good news. And thank you, Kourosh. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge and your experience and everything that you've given us.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you.